welcome everybody. Just a quick show of hands, how many people were not here yesterday? If you were not here yesterday, oh, quite a few. Big chunk over there in that back corner. Hello! Nice to see you, glad you finally made it. Lovely. We are going to do a little bit of tea and toilets for those who weren't here yesterday, so apologies if you've heard this stuff before. There are loos over by the session room 2, so the conference theatre 2. There's some loos down some stairs there. You are also there close to the VIP lounge, which is where you get free coffee and stuff. Yeah, so that's good to know. The delegate lounge is closer to here. That's where you get your lunch. And that's about it for those notices. On your badges, you will have letters. Those letters relate to the sessions in the program which you are expected to be at. So if you want to change those, go and have a word at the delegate desk, but otherwise that will get you into those individual sessions over the course of the day. So that's all of the admin stuff done for now. What I'd like to do though is, those of you who were here yesterday, you know the drill, okay? This is where you share your learning goal, your reason for being here with one of your colleagues. Except today is slightly different because you did that yesterday. So today, I would like a progress update, please. So have a word with the person next to you about what you did yesterday and what you're still hoping to achieve today. For those of you who are new, you're just going to have to find somebody you don't know. So don't just talk to your mates about why you have booked to come to day 2 of this session, what you hope to gain from it, okay? You have, as ever, got 90 seconds. Find somebody that you haven't spoken to yet. Off you go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your 90 seconds. Okay, so, having vouchsafed their dreams, goals, and ambitions to you, you are now charged with an onerous responsibility of checking in during the day and going, how's it going? Okay, that's your job from here on in, okay? So a couple of other things. Please remember that between sessions and all the rest of it, this event is made viable by the presence of the people out there. So go and see them and say hello and find out what they're all about. Please keep your phones off or on silent during the actual sessions themselves. I have been known to answer them when they've gone off in people's pockets in the past. So unless you want your nearest and dearest to speak to me, I would keep them on silent for the purposes of this session. But I do hope that you enjoy the various activities today. It's a packed day. We're going to finish at 4 o'clock today so that you can go back into public transport hell all on your own. But up until then, you are in the safe, warm bosom of the World of Learning family. And I would like to start our session today with a speaker I think is going to be really, really interesting. So Kirstin Furber now works as head of people for Channel 4. She's worked for a number of broadcasting organisations, and those of you who were in some of the sessions yesterday, she's also worked for Kantar, which Paolo did a session around some of the work that's been going on in agile learning in Kantar. So you'll be familiar with a number of the organisations for whom she has been employed and the roles that she's done. But interestingly, even in what we might consider to be highly desirable roles in highly prestigious organisations, her focus is around Sunday night blues. And I think this is going to be a really interesting session, so please join me in welcoming Kirstin Furber from Channel 4. Thank you.
It's Sunday afternoon. I've just come back from a fabulous lunch with my friends. And as I go past the hallway, I notice my work bag. Now, we've known each other for a really long time. We've been on many trips together. We know each other well. My bag looks at me. It says, "Feed me your laptop, your iPhone, your keys." And then it just looks on the side and says, "You have got a really busy, challenging week ahead of you. And you know that piece of work on Friday that you didn't want to start, you've got that to look forward to on Monday." And immediately I start to get some anxiety in my chest, my stomach starts to flutter, and my weekend goes. My name is Kirstin Furber. I love my job, and I get the Sunday night blues. Now, the Sunday night blues is something that's fascinated me for a really long time. And if actually I go back to when I was at school, getting my uniform ready, getting my books together, and the atmosphere in the house would change as my parents would start to get ready for work. And I'd just be hoping Monday would come because then things would go back to normal. And then I got my first job, selling advertising space. And I'd get that Sunday afternoon feeling of, I've got to get up early tomorrow. And I've got to get up early on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's quite a different schedule to being a student. And then my career progressed. I started to travel. I started to travel to New York, to Washington, to Singapore, to India. And most Sunday afternoons, I'd be going down to the airport, really excited about seeing my colleagues face to face, learning new cultures. And I'd get on the aeroplane, and I'd start to look at my emails, and they'd start to be pinging in. And those feelings would come back. So I started to share this feeling with my colleagues. And I've worked for some amazing people, some very senior leaders, and I still do now. And they also started to share with me, actually, I have these feelings as well. I don't sleep very well on Sunday because of anticipation for Monday morning. I get that anxiety feeling, that sick feeling. So I thought, I started to blog about it. What's it mean for individuals? What does it mean for organisations, Sunday Night Blues? And I was quite overwhelmed, actually, a lot of feedback. People were sharing quite personal things. Some people said they actually felt sick on that Sunday going into work. Did you know more than 2/3 of us suffer from sleeplessness and anxiety on a Sunday? And after 5 p.m. on a Sunday, there's a spike in Google searches around sadness as people are looking for help. And Monday contributes to 25% of total absences in the week. And in 2022, 5% of the UK's GDP was spent on mental health problems. Now, it's hardly surprising, is it? We live in a very fast-paced, competitive world. We're always on. It's economically challenging. It's competitive. And we're quite fussy as consumers, aren't we? We want all our products and services immediately, and also we don't want to spend very much money on them. And this is putting huge pressure on organisations and individuals to innovate and come up with products to satisfy our needs. And then there's technology. Technology has given us flexibility, but it's also given us pace and access to information. Do you remember the time where you might sit in a cafe with friends and you talk about a film you saw, and then there would be what was the name of that actor and that actress? Can you remember? And you spend quite a lot of time thinking about it. Now we just look at our phones. And we might have an experience. It could be good, it could be bad. And beforehand, we may have called a friend. Now we post it on social media. We are always on 24/7. And this is having an impact on our mental and our physical health. And in some very sad situations, this is coming into burnout and talented individuals leaving organisations. We all want to do our best, and Sunday Night Blues is not helping us. I believe if we could alleviate the Sunday Night Blues, that would boost productivity, boost innovation, and make work better. Our weekends are really precious for rest, recuperation, and perspective, so we can start our week in the best possible way. So this got me thinking, why do we work like this? Why do we accept that we'll have a shorter weekend? I wanted others to understand and recognise how important this issue of Sunday Night Blues is. I needed proof. A friend of mine said to me, Kirstin, you know what, it's really great, you're doing all this blogging, that's fantastic. But you need to be able to measure this. That is the only way people are going to take this really seriously. I know somebody that you should meet. And I said, okay. So I was introduced to Professor Ilka Iniglo from the University of Exeter. And we started to share our experiences around Sunday Night Blues, which I have noticed that if you start doing that, everyone starts going, oh yes, this is my experience. And through that conversation, we started to shape what some research would look like. Did Sunday Night Blues exist? What the cause is? And importantly, what could we do about it? Channel 4 came on board, and then Investors in People. And last year, we had a sneak preview. Last year, we shared the initial results. And we shared this through a panel. Anna Richardson from Naked Attraction fame, who's a really big supporter of mental health. On the left-hand side there, you can see Professor Ilka, myself, and Paul Devoy from Investors in People. And I love this picture because it shows how all of these skills and perspectives and experiences to come together on this really, really important topic. So what did we find out? I'm not doing very well on the clicker today, and I did have a rehearsal. What did we find out? 79% of individuals said they experienced the Sunday Night Blues. And between 3 and 8 o'clock, people said that's when they experienced it. Few. You know that friend of mine who said, you need to have some proof? I called them, I said, by the way, look, here's some evidence. But what the research also taught us was even if you love your job, you experience the Sunday Night Blues. Even if you love your job, you experience the Sunday Night Blues. Now, I thought this was really quite fascinating because you would expect, wouldn't you, given our very professionals in the audience, that if you're not connected to the purpose of the organisation, you don't like the culture, you don't like the manager, maybe you don't like your work, you're probably going to get a bit of anxiety on a Sunday night. But these were people who were saying they were very connected to the purpose of the organisation. They loved what they were doing. Now, the research is still ongoing around this, but I believe, in my experience, there are two reasons for this. One is around the high expectations that we put on ourselves, particularly around individuals who really care about the purpose of the organisation, wanting to do the best job. If you then add imposter syndrome into it of, am I good enough? Can I do my job? It's a really nice cocktail of Sunday night blues. The research also taught us the gap between, or the transition between home and work life, and how technology has really blurred that line and is adding that extra Sunday night blues feeling. So, what can we do about it? The research says it's how do you transition from a Sunday to a Monday? Now, this doesn't mean we need to be fully energized all the time, really excited, because A, that's not authentic, B, that is absolutely exhausting, and let's face it, for us supporting individuals, that's exhausting too. So it's really about how do we find the balance? I have an ex-colleague who every Sunday they have lunch with their family. Sometimes they invite some friends between 1 and 3. And at 3 o'clock, they go up to their office, they open up their laptop, they close out the week, they look at the priorities for the next week. At 5 o'clock, they shut their laptop, they go downstairs, and they have their Sunday. Now, if I did that, it wouldn't be working. I might shut my laptop at 5, but my mind would still be going, and I would be working in my week. The point I'm trying to make here is it's very, very personal in terms of how we want to alleviate the Sunday night blues. And I believe there are 3 pillars. Prioritise yourself, create space, and plan positive. So what do we mean by prioritise yourself? This is a little bit like going on an aeroplane, getting your oxygen mask on first, fitting it yourself, and then you can help others. And I believe people, professionals, we really need to look after ourselves first. So what is it in your week that's going to help you be your best on a Monday? Every Monday morning at 7:30, I do a yoga class, without fail. And on Sunday afternoon, when I'm getting that little bit of feeling, that anxiety, I know at 8:30 on Monday, I'm going to be ready for the week so that I can do what I need to do. Now, you might not have an hour. Yoga might not be your thing. You may only have 5 or 10 minutes, but whatever it is, I really ask you to think about what's going to help you to help others to start your working week. It takes 21 days for a habit to form and 90 days to create a permanent lifestyle change. So I just leave that thought with you. The second pillar is about creating space. So when we start work, do we ever talk to our colleagues about how we'd like to work? I know we do inductions, I know we have performance management and appraisals, but do we ever say, would you like me to send emails to you after 5 o'clock, is that okay? Or do you work at the weekends or not? Do we ever have those conversations? I spoke to my team, we used to, and there's a little bit of a theme in there, used to have a kick-off meeting at 10 o'clock on a Monday. And I said to them, should we have this meeting at 10 o'clock? And they said, absolutely no way, it's really not working for me. I need the morning because I need to get myself sorted based on what's come over the weekend. I want to be present and ready for us to prioritise what's happening in the week ahead. So we changed the meeting to 2 o'clock. I know another team had that conversation. They said, no, we need the meeting at 9:30 because we get the latest bit of information coming in and we need to know what it is, and then I can go and do my work and then I can check in at the end of the week. It's about having the conversation. How many times have you, on a Monday, said, how was your weekend, but didn't really listen to the answer? Sort of it's like a hello, isn't it? How was your weekend? Yeah, anyway, by the way, can you do that email I sent you? What happens if we said, how was your Sunday evening? And really listen to that answer. And we ask that question every week. And maybe we could see a pattern starting to form with our colleagues of maybe they're having a worse Sunday evening and maybe their mental health is not well and therefore maybe they might need some help. Mental health is very, very personal. And people like to be open about it and some people don't. But asking the question, how was your Sunday evening, has no stigma attached to it. And that potentially could mean we could try and prevent burnout of our colleagues, but also ourselves. I spoke before about the high expectations we sometimes put on ourselves. And I think this is another area of creating space, of having that conversation. I've seen many times in my career, I'm sure you have as well, where a project's come up, something that's really exciting. Someone's put their hand up and went, yeah, I'll do that project. And they go underground for 2 weeks, and they come back up with the presentation or the work, and the work is brilliant. It's really well thought through. Unfortunately, it's just not quite delivering the answer needed. And only because the organisation has moved on in those 2 weeks, or the client has wanted something different. So how about, in that conversation, isn't there something around what's the check-in points? How do we want to work? How do we want to make sure that you can do your best work? And importantly, when is the deadline? Do you want to have a deadline of Friday and you've got some feedback going into the weekend? Or would you like to have a deadline of Monday? It's about having a conversation because it's all so personal. The third pillar is about planning positive. So this is about having something in your week that you're going to get excited about. We're all familiar, aren't we, with the job satisfaction, connecting into the purpose, values, objectives. What is one of those objectives that's going to get you really excited, and put that in the diary? So you've got something to look forward to. Easy, isn't it? All those things are in our control. Yes, but no. All of those things rely on organisational culture for sustainability. They need to come together. An organisational culture can be so overwhelming. How do you influence an organisation's culture? Well, I believe it's the 4 or 5 people you work with every day. Whether you're in a large organisation, a small organisation, you work for yourself. Those individuals will really impact your day. The behaviours, how you work with each other, the conversations you have. So I really ask, for those of you who are leaders, managers, own your own business, you have a big responsibility to support that culture, to help others alleviate the Sunday night blues. So back to the bag. I'm going to sort the clicker out by the end of this. Back to Sunday afternoon. I pass my bag. It looks at me. Feed me your laptop, your iPhone, your keys. Has a little bit of a devious grin. You've got a little bit of a challenging meeting next week, haven't you? But I'm prepared. I've worked out my priorities for the week. I also, on Monday, have got a really exciting meeting scheduled. Somebody I've been wanting to meet for ages, and I'm really excited. I look back at my bag. It's merely a tool. I've tamed my bag. We all want to make a contribution. We all have talents. I'd like us all to enjoy our Sunday afternoons as we want to enjoy them. I'd also like us to return from work on a Monday with a spring in our step, excited that we've shared an idea with some colleagues and we want to take it forward. So I ask you, think about what's the actions you're going to take to alleviate the Sunday night blues for yourself and for others. Thank you for listening. I'm on a mission to alleviate the Sunday night blues and make the work better.
Kirstin, thank you very much indeed. We've got some time for some questions. Should anybody have any questions? And while you're having a think, I have a question to start with.
How do you do the clicker?
Yeah. The key question is have you ever hidden the bag rather than have it? I mean, is there a way of just like not thinking about this stuff rather than...
I think personally, if I go back in my career, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of whenever my ill, I'll just put it in the bag.
Yeah.
Or I'll put on that sort of pretend coat of like, I'll put on my armour in a way. But I really believe now, and I think particularly with the pandemic, we want it to be open. It's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you're hiding it, you're exhausting yourself and not being yourself.
And I guess that leads me into a conversation around working from home, remote working, hybrid working, and whether or not that makes things better or worse in terms of that sense of the Sunday, or indeed does Sunday just get to be another day when we're doing stuff, because that's where we work. Is the work that you're doing still in working out the scale and nature of the issue tell you anything about people who are now working more often or more frequently from home? And Mondays, let's be honest, is one of the days when quite a lot of us work from home because it's a dreadful day to try and travel anywhere.
Travel today. Well, I think there's two things, isn't there? One as I sort of mentioned in the research around blurring that home and work life that technology has created for us in a good way, in a bad way. But then it really goes back to it's personal. I know some people who really enjoy going back to the office on Monday because they want that transition. Other people I know, actually, I need a day to just download, sort myself out, and then I'm ready to have all my meetings on a Tuesday. Yeah. So I really believe, and it's a really simple message, is let's have a conversation and work out what it is, because we know there are competing factors in there depending on where we work.
Sure. So, Toby, get your running shoes on. We have a question right at the front, of course. The next question will be somewhere over in the back corner, I can guarantee it. Toby needs the exercise. Look at him. He's a skinnyling thing. He needs to build up some muscle.
Thank you. I wonder if you can go deeper on the research. What was the methodology? What kind of questions did you ask? Just to get a bit deeper on the results.
Wow, that's probably a separate session in itself.
Yes, I know.
And I do speak quite a bit with Professor Ilker, who is obviously very knowledgeable about all the research, but it was a focus group survey, a very, very big control group, and the research is still going on, because the important thing now is what do we need to do to alleviate that, and then go back to what I was saying. It's really ensuring we've got some evidence around it. So we're just trying to work out at the moment of, do you have two control teams? Some people who do different things at different times, and then how will that impact as well? So the research is available and will be published shortly, and that will have all that information in it. But it's very, very rich. I've top surface, really.
Thank you.
Ladies, just over there. Thank you.
Thank you for that talk. I really enjoyed it. What I enjoyed was the fact that you've made me conscious about it. And I'm not working at the moment, but I still get it late on a Sunday, so it's conditioned. And when I think back now, there are times where if I'm aware of it, I can go, no, it's Sunday night. You're dealing with it tomorrow. Your working week starts tomorrow. But I'm often caught out, so I'm not conscious of it, and by the time that you're aware of it, you're in quite high anxiety. What would you suggest you can do to keep it at the fore?
Well, I think great that it's awareness. That's why I really care about this subject, talking about it, because everyone then has their own personal view around it. Keep being aware around it, isn't it? Start making it conscious, and then start again. It's about what is it that's going to help you, and I think we all know, don't we, as experts in the learning field, is what is it that's going to give you that check and balance? So is it your friend? Is it somebody, a member of your family to say, this is going to happen to me, I need to check in on you. I think we've all got those sort of coaching strategies, haven't we, that work for us and not work for us, but I'm so glad you're now more conscious of it, because then we can do something about it, isn't it? And share, I think, different ideas and thoughts and experiment.
Thank you.
Just behind you, and then I'll come to this gentleman in the front. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for that. One of the anchors you mentioned early on in your talk was school. Have you done any work with the schools to stop this problem at source?
Well, so going back to the panel and back to Ilka and Paul, that is a conversation we've had a lot. We'd love to open it out further, because as we all know, isn't it? It's when you start, that's when you can start to make an impact. So definitely, that's a live conversation.
Gentleman at the front here. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. So the third pillar that you talk about, I think is sometimes a lot of people will say, oh, the positive thing that I'm looking for is the weekend. And so is there any correlation, or was there any conversation in terms of kind of the opposite force, that the excitement that maybe people are getting on a Friday, that if there's something that could be implemented on the Sunday evening blues to kind of, I don't know, just to learn a little bit more about this emotional aspect, if you have any insights.
This subject has got many tentacles and many, but I don't work 5 days, or I don't work on a Monday, I work in shift. There's so many sort of different views and work patterns to think about it. And where we've really framed the research is that transition period. So how can you transition, which I believe, and we'll test this further, of can you take that transition into different, for personal reasons, if you're working in a different way, part-time, if you don't work on a Monday, maybe you have Monday night blues, or maybe what I'm hearing from you is something around, okay, I really enjoy my weekend, so how do I transition from Friday to my week, or whatever that might be. So I think the research is still going. So I would, when it's published, which it will be soon, have a look at that, and then we'll start really digging underneath what that is. But sorry to be a bit of a broken record, it's so personal. So it may be for you, I'm really excited about the weekends. That's how I get through my week. But how do you make sure that after that excitement of the weekend, you can start and be your best place and for Monday? And that's, I think, the piece of work that we really need to focus on.
As just an observation as much as a question, a couple of things really, because one of the things that you instantly think about with something like this is, well, what are organisations doing about it? And from what you've said, it kind of doesn't matter. Because it's not about whether or not people like their job or whether people have got exciting things. It's really about a personal response to those situations. I really like the idea of what you talked about, which is that the culture is immediate to you. It's the people just around you. And we talked quite a lot yesterday around, in different sessions, around the idea of organisational culture. And here's a slightly controversial comment, perhaps. I don't think there is such a thing. There are cultures which happen in small teams. It might be about an area around that brew station that you go to, or your corner of the office, or your little function, but the chances are the culture will be different in the different part of the building or a different function within your organisation. And it's about managing your response to and your influence on the bit of the culture of the organisation that you can deal with in practice. And I think that's an interesting idea.
Are you the second speaker?
No.
You're just lining it up for the next thing. No? Okay, cool. Sorry.
So I think that's an interesting idea. That idea of it's actually not the big thing, it's the small thing. It's the people immediately
Make it
around
manageable,
you.
isn't it? Bite-sized chunks.
Exactly. So I think that's a really interesting idea. And also, I'd like to share a little story. Years and years and years ago, I did a job for Thorn EMI. For those of you who don't know who Thorn EMI is, they used to make speakers. They still do, I guess, somewhere, but they don't make them where they used to make them, which was a factory in Bradford. And I went along to this factory to find out why they had lost so many of their staff. And they had lost so many of their staff, I discovered, because the people who worked there using a particular machine, which meant that they went click, plunk, click, plunk, click, plunk, for 8 hours a day, had all resigned. And they'd all resigned because every one of those people working in that department was a mother and a working wife. Every woman who worked in that department came to work to get away from thinking about hard stuff. And everybody in that department had been put onto a rotational plan around different machines and different parts of the processes. And that is the last thing that they wanted. So it might be that we think that would be dire, that would be dreadful. But the reason for working for these women was to talk to their friends while they did something mindlessly repetitive, and nobody was asking them to cook, clean, do the laundry, or pack up lunch. That's why they went to work. Now, we may think of that and go, well, that's weird. Why would anybody want to do that for a job? Well, maybe they didn't have a choice. That was their life. And our response to those individuals sometimes might be counterintuitive to what we would expect. But that reinforces the point that Kirstin's made, which is that there is no one-size-fits-all here. It's not about having really exciting, interesting work, because that comes with its own stresses. It's not necessarily also about having really boring and dull work either, don't get me wrong. It's about whatever the individual needs. Am I completely missing the point there at all, or is that somewhere
It's all
close?
personal. That's what I'd say at the end of the day, right? You know yourself, you know what works, you know your organisations. So I think it's a mixing all of that together. I just think it's so, the world of work is changing so rapidly. We just need to think about how can we be our best selves. And that's what I think about alleviating the Sunday night blues. So my message is, what works for you?
We are close to the end of our available time. I've got time for one more question if anybody's got a burning comment to make. Of course, Toby, it's somebody far away from where you are. That's just the way of it. I don't do this on purpose, I promise. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you for a really great talk. It was really interesting that you said that people that love their jobs absolutely have very similar feelings, and that when you took it back to school. So obviously when looking at attachment and sort of social psychology, and that those sort of formative years up to 7, and you'll feel like even if you love school, you're being taken away from your parents or out of your family and out of your safety zone. If we actually condition that young, that Monday to Friday is almost like an unknown fear, how would we then potentially look to change that? I mean, in the research, could we look at, countries where they're really successfully running 4-day weeks or mixed weeks and see how people feel about it, and maybe look at sort of social psychology in terms of, is that those early years actually massively impacting how we feel later on?
There's such amazing opportunity, isn't there? And I also think in the world of everything is overwhelming, if there's one thing we can do, we're more conscious of it, and therefore we're going to have a conversation that will then build into how can we start to change things. So it's about joining up the dots, having the conversations, and what's that one thing that you can do that's going to move this conversation on. So yeah, lots of opportunity.
Thank you for starting the conversation.
No worries.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking again Kirstin Furber from Channel 4.